Well then, PlayStation had a bit of an info dump today, didn't they, about their newly revamped PlayStation Plus subscription service, which is getting a whole lot more convoluted, will be inconsistent between regions, and still, bewilderingly, remains noticeably inferior to Xbox's similar subscription service, which for a long time now has been kicking Sony's ass in consumer satisfaction and just plain old good press. But Sony have also just revealed that they are doing something that, to me, feels so un-Sony-like I had to check it twice. Something Nintendo should be doing, in fact, something that Nintendo has been dragged over the coals for, just refusing to do for quite some time now. And it is extra astounding that Sony, of all entities, are doing it, given their long history of consumer hostility and how friendly this is to long-time customers of their various platforms. It just came out of left field. Hello again, I am Blunty. Let's talk about Sony surprising me, and in the good way, not just the, oh wow, you found a whole new freshly bent dog biscuit way of being shitty to your customer base. That kind of way, which is that it's Sony's usual move. So yeah, PlayStation, like many companies of its size, in my opinion, just spends all day every day just going around as reeking turd piles of just the worst kind of late-staged capitalist corporate, and let's be kind of call it culture in the same way that this is a culture. So anyway, PlayStation Plus is getting a reboot, a new multi-tiered system with multi-tiered pricing structures and multi-regional distribution that has different countries receiving different levels of service and different amounts of content and different amounts of value for no good reason that I can fathom aside from Sony being dicks. But I bet you the reason has something to do with laziness and greed at its core, because Sony has got a Sony after all. It's a bit of a mess, frankly, and instead of engendering confidence and value in the brand, it's done, as far as I can see, the opposite, a fair amount of harm, and triggered much annoyance and confusion in even their existing customer base, much less the one they're trying to rope into the subscription service, and so as something more than just something we have to pay for as hostages just to allow us the games that we have already paid full price for, the privilege of playing online. Not just a Sony thing, but still it's pissy and petty. Anyway, Xbox have a similar three-tiered system, but theirs is a lot cleaner and easier to understand. There was no confusion around it when they announced that sort of stuff, as far as I can remember. The PS Plus reboot was intended to offer the kind of endlessly expanding value that Xbox players have had for a very, very long time now, and PlayStation has been routinely criticized for lacking. So you'd think that with this reboot, Sony would come out swinging for the fences and make a big splash and go hard and fast and really make an impact, suck in new subscribers, get the existing ones to upgrade to a higher tier for superb value. Just go ham with it. So let's take a quick look before I get into the really un-Sony-like thing I mentioned that they're doing. It's a pretty solid offering of current and recent PS4 gen kind of titles, both first party and third. I mean, there's nothing there that I've been waiting to play or that I don't already own since its respective release, but sure, some good titles there that maybe some people will give a go now that it's part of a service like this. How about you? Anything here that has you going, oh yeah, I can finally give that a go? And it remains to be seen if PlayStation are going to do what Xbox do and just put new stuff there, day and date release. But then Sony went full Nintendo with their classics offering. Classics. With a big wet plop of uninspiring crap when we all know what kind of gold is sitting there in their back libraries, in their back catalogs. Nintendo, we all know what's there and you won't give it to us. Hot Shots Golf! To some of you might know it as the endlessly catchy title of Everybody's Golf. There's a thriller of a AAA title if I ever saw one. I even own it, I think, pretty sure. It was one of the launch titles for the PSP, I think. I'll be corrected on that if I'm wrong. Never played more than a few minutes of it. It was kind of garbo. Tekken 2, that's the one they chose, not the vastly superior Tekken 3, weird choice. And the rest? I've barely thought about most of these or even heard about many of them before. What a middling, pathetic and tiny collection of possibilities to draw from the libraries of the original PlayStation and the PSP combined. That's what they're coming out of the fence with. They're remasters fare little better in being, what's the word? Interesting? Tempting? No point in looking at the PS3 offerings, as only some regions even get that content. Australia doesn't, because Sony can't be fucked to implement the streaming service that it relies on. So that's 30 fewer games and significantly worse value right there for Australian customers alone. Do we pay less though? No. Sony said we would, but no. A year of PlayStation Plus Deluxe cost 156 Australian dollars. That's about 110 American smackers in today's conversion. What's the same thing cost in the USA? Fractionally more at 120 American. There's, so we get 30 less games at launch and a whole chunk of the service utterly missing, and we won't get any content for it because it's just not there to put content on, and we pay the price of a small McChicken meal at McDonald's less for it. This is Sony delivering on their promise to take the significantly reduced value offering into account for regions they're not bothering to set up with the streaming service and PlayStation 3 games in. Gee, thanks. So generous. That seems completely fair. Yeah, the entire PlayStation 3 catalog that you're bringing to the service, apparently that's worth $10. Says a lot about what Sony think of the customers and what value they think PlayStation 3 games hold. But the interesting thing, the un-SONY thing, is a much, much smaller value, but so remarkably out of character for Sony, it merits highlighting all on its own. Within the Premium and Deluxe plans, you get the Classic Games catalog, which is, as yet, very uninspiring, but could be more interesting in the future as they bring in good games from the old libraries, not this dreck. But here's the thing, someone with an actual human soul slipped past the sociopaths and demons in grey suits that run Sony. And I now quote from their blog post, so I get this perfectly right. Players who have previously purchased the digital version of select games from the original PlayStation and PSP generation will not have to make a separate purchase or sign up for PlayStation Plus to play these titles on PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5. When these titles are released for PS4 and PS5, players can head to the PlayStation Store and download a version for the consoles at no extra cost if they already own the digital version of the title. Some of the titles will also be available for individual purchase. So, Nintendo, what Sony are doing here is recognizing that it's super duper shitty to make people who already paid for games pay for them again, or pay for a subscription just to have access to them, when they are available on newer hardware that already natively supports emulating them there from the start. How's that for the least Sony thing Sony has ever done? Not only do they recognize that you've paid for these things before and making you pay again for them just because it's on a new piece of hardware with the same, back-end shop still attached to it. And unlike Nintendo, you don't even have to pay for the subscription service to access these games you've already paid for. It will take a lot of convincing to make me think that someone at Sony didn't slip this under the radar. There's no way that Sony's standard corporate infrastructure was made aware of this. This is just, it slid by. It was in a note at the bottom of the page somewhere, scrolled in poorly printed, the inkjet was running out of ink or something, and they didn't notice it in time. Unfortunately for me, PSP was back in the days where I was still very staunchly in the physical copies only of my games please type of console gamer, and I don't think I purchased any PS1 classics on the other platforms. Of course, there was no digital storefront on the original PlayStation because, well, doy. And so it's only the titles that have already been made available in the storefronts on the PS3 and so on of PS1 classics that will be part of this whole thing. And of course, it's only for the select titles that come to be included with the PlayStation Plus service at all, it seems. Not a blanket coverage for every PlayStation 1 classic and every PSP game there ever was on the past storefronts. Just the ones they decide to include in the subscription you can access to without the subscription, which is, that's a little more Sony, isn't it? Anyway, it's something, at least. It's something. And I think it might be the first time in quite some time I've had anything positive to say about Sony as a company and PlayStation as a brand. I mean, yeah, it was filled with a lot of backhanded bullshit because Sony is really a horrifically toxic and evil and anti-consumer company, but still, silver linings. Right? What do you reckon? Interested in upgrading your PlayStation Plus subscription for something more than just being able to play your games online? I think mine lapsed. In fact, mine definitely would have lapsed by now. It's been a while since I played a PlayStation game, actually. I've been just consumed by Monster Hunter on the Switch still. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thank you to the patrons scrolling up above there for their above and beyond support. I really do appreciate it, each and every one of you. And I will catch the rest of you next time.